You start with $100 a month. You swear it'll be different this time. It hits your checking account, mixes with everything else, and disappears in small, forgettable chunks. I'm going to show you how to make your first $100 a month survive real life, and exactly what job it should do first. That same $100 a month, at a hypothetical 10% average, becomes about $20,000 in 10 years, about $76,000 in 20, and about $632,000 in 40 years. And you only put in $12,000, $24,000, and $48,000. Because right now, your plan is fighting in the same arena as every bill, every tap, every silent auto charge. Your first $100 is not failing. It's hanging where every dollar sits together and spending gets first pick. If you try to be disciplined, you're playing defense all month. By the end, you'll have a simple two-lane setup that turns $100 into breathing room first, then into long-term wealth. And in a minute, I'll show you the simple move that makes lane 1 untouchable without willpower. That first $100 doesn't fail because it's too small. It fails because it's sitting in the wrong place. Most people invest the first $100 too early, then wonder why they keep starting over. Here's the scene I want you to picture. You remember you started a free trial. You open the app, you hunt for the cancel button, and the app acts like it's playing hide and seek. You find it, finally, and it hits you with 3 different pause options, 2 discount offers, and 1 last little button that says keep subscription, like it's daring you to give up. You close the app for a second because you have to do something else, and that is all it takes. Next thing you know, that trial quietly turns into a charge, and you only notice when something else declines later. I hate how normal that feels. Now, zoom out. That little charge is not just annoying, it's proof of the villain for today. The one pile default is what happens when all your money lives in one place and everything in your life has permission to grab it. Bills, swipes, auto charges, holds, tips. Just this once. All of it. And your first $100 a month is standing there like an unpaid intern. No title, no badge, no protection. So it gets assigned to whatever shows up first. Money without a job gets recruited. Let me show you the exact moment it disappears. Not with a dramatic purchase. Not with a splurge that you remember for years. It's usually a cluster of tiny things you would swear do not matter. A streaming price bump you forgot happened. A delivery membership you signed up for during a late-night checkout. A cloud storage charge you set up once and never looked at again. A phone app you meant to cancel when life slowed down. A survey asked people to guess what they spent on subscriptions in a month. The average guess was $86. Then those same people listed each subscription one by one, and the average was $219. That is not a budgeting problem. That is a visibility problem. And it gets worse because subscriptions love autopay. In that same survey, 72% said their subscription payments are set to autopay, and 42% said they stopped using a subscription but forgot they were still paying. Auto charges do not knock. They do not ask if it's a good week. They just walk in. Now stack that on top of how often money moves. A Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta Payments Diary report found that consumers made about 48 payments in a month in 2024. 48. That is more than once a day on average. That means your $100 is trying to survive in a month where money is leaving your account almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And a lot of it is so small, you do not even register it as a decision. This is why just track it can feel like a joke. You can be a responsible adult and still get blindsided because the pile does not separate planned from happened. It's all just outflow. And the pile has another trick: timing illusions. Your rent, your utilities, your insurance, your subscriptions, your annual renewals, your random holds at the gas pump, and your one-off charges do not land on the same day. They land whenever they feel like it. So your brain does this thing where you see a balance on day 6 and you think, okay, I'm fine. Then day 9 shows up and 3 different charges hit. Then day 12 shows up and something annual lands like a jump scare. And some of those are not even real charges yet. They are holds, pending transactions, the restaurant tip that changes later, the hotel deposit that sits for days. So the number you see is not always the number you actually have. This is why the first $100 feels cursed. It's not cursed, it's just unprotected. And companies know this. A lot of subscription revenue depends on people forgetting. Even regulators have called out how hard some companies make it to cancel. In 2024, the FTC finalized a click-to-cancel rule aimed at making cancellation as easy as sign-up. In that same FTC release, they said complaints about negative option and recurring subscription practices had been rising rising for 5 years, and in 2024, they averaged nearly 70 complaints per day. Even though a federal appeals court later vacated the rule before it took effect in July 2025, the point is the same. Enough people were getting trapped that it became a national fight. And it's not just abstract. In December 2025, the FTC and states accused Uber of making subscription cancellation so hard that in some cases, it could mean as many as 23 screens and up to 32 actions. 32. That is not a "you should be more disciplined" story. That is a "this was designed to wear you down" story. So here's what changes today. Quick thing before I tell you this. I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't personal financial advice. This is education and entertainment based on research and what I've seen in real life. If you're making a big money decision, talk to a qualified professional who can look at your specific situation. You stop trying to defend $100 inside one pile. You give it a lane. You stop trying to defend $100 inside one pile. But there's a catch. Your first $100 can't live in the same pile as your bills and swipes, or it will vanish on schedule. That line sounds dramatic. It's not. It's literally about location. If the $100 is in the same place as your daily spending, it will get used for daily spending, even if you swear it won't. So rule 1 is sequencing, not motivation. The $100 moves first. Day 1, automatically. Before your brain gets tired, before you see a limited time offer, before your calendar does its little surprise attack. Now, lane 1. What is lane 1 for? Lane 1 is not for getting rich. Lane 1 is for stopping resets. Because what wrecks people is not that they cannot save. It's that they save, and then life forces a rollback, and then they feel stupid, and then they stop. So, lane 1 has one job. It is your calm cash. Calm cash is money you can touch when life plays timing games. A random fee, a small repair, a renewal you forgot, a week where hours dip. Something annoying, not life-ending. Notice what I did not say. I did not say it's for vacations. It is not for upgrading your phone. It is not for a treat-yourself moment. It exists so your plan does not get drafted into chaos. If a dollar doesn't have a job, it gets drafted into whatever shows up first. Here's how you make calm cash actually protected. This is the simple move I teased. Lane 1 cannot be swipe-friendly. No debit card attached. No digital wallet attached. No tap to move it back in seconds right next to your shopping apps. If your bank lets you create a separate savings pocket that does not have a card and does not show up as available at checkout, great. If it doesn't, use a separate institution, or even a plain old savings account that takes a day to move money out. Yes, that little delay is a feature. It's friction. And friction is what keeps your $100 from getting volunteered for every small thing. Now lane 2. Lane 2 is your growth lane. It exists for the long game. Retirement, investing, wealth building, whatever you want to call it. But it only works when lane 1 is doing its job, because lane 2 is not supposed to get touched for random life. This is the whole setup. 2 lanes, 2 jobs, 1 lane for stability, 1 lane for growth, and both are automatic. Here's how to build it without turning it into a giant project. Step 1, pick the day, not someday, a day. Pick it now. If you want a little accountability, pause for 2 seconds and comment the day you chose. If you get paid every 2 weeks, pick the day after payday. If you get paid weekly, pick 1 day a week. If your pay bounces around, pick the day you usually see deposits. And if your pay really is irregular, you are not alone. One analysis from the JP Morgan Chase Institute found that take-home pay changes in 7 out of 10 months, even for people staying in the same job. So a plan that assumes every month is identical is going to feel like it hates you. If $100 feels too sharp, split it into smaller automatic moves. Same total, smaller bites. The goal is consistency, not drama. Step 2, automate the transfer. Not a reminder, not a calendar notification. An automatic transfer that happens whether you are motivated or not. The first transfer goes to calm cash. I know what you are thinking, but if I move it out, what if I need it? Good. That is the point. You should have to decide. You are building a tiny moment of "are you sure?" between you and impulse. Step 3, make lane 1 hard to raid. This is where people get cute and then wonder why it fails. If calm cash lives inside your main checking account as just extra money, it is not calm cash. It is snack money. It is invitation money. So remove the card. Hide it from your main spending screen if you can. Turn off overdraft transfers from it if your bank allows. Rename it something that makes you feel slightly guilty to touch for nonsense. Call it "not today." Call it keep my month stable, whatever makes you pause. Step 4. Give lane 1 a finish line that makes sense. Not a heroic number, a useful number. The first finish line is, I can handle the next annoying surprise without begging my future plan for help. For some people, that is a few days of essentials. For some people, it's 1 week. For some people, it's enough to cover the most common, oh come on expense that keeps showing up. The point is this, lane 1 is a reset blocker. It keeps you from going back to zero every time life pokes you. Step 5. Do a 10-minute subscription sweep while lane 1 is building. Not a deep clean, a sweep. Open your last statement. Search for the words monthly, annual, membership, renewal. Make a list, not a spreadsheet, a list. Then ask one brutal question. If this charge hit on the same day as a surprise expense, would you defend it? If the answer is no, cancel it now. Not later, now. Because the one pile default loves later. Convenience loves later too. It can be one click to start, and it can take a bunch of steps to stop. Here's what this looks like in real life, with zero personality change. A deposit hits. Within hours, the automatic transfer moves your $100 out of the pile and into calm cash. Not because you remembered, because it is set. Then life does what life does. A subscription renews. A kid's app store charge slips through. Your phone carrier adds some weird add-on you did not ask for, and you have to call to remove it. Your grocery run turns into, how did that cost that much? Those things still happen. You are not becoming a monk. The difference is that your $100 is not standing there, exposed, waiting to get drafted. And when the truly annoying thing hits, the thing that usually forces you into panic, you finally have a clean choice. Picture this. You are at the dentist and they tell you, casually, looks like your insurance didn't cover that part. You owe $120 today. Old setup. That charge lands in the pile. The pile drops. Now you spend the rest of the week doing mental gymnastics. New setup. You pay it, and it's annoying, but it comes from calm cash. Your month stays intact. Your growth lane stays untouched. Your bills still clear. Your plan does not reset. That is why lane 1 comes first. It is not a luxury. It is basic stability. Now we build lane 2. Lane 2 is where the same $100 starts building actual wealth. But lane 2 has to obey the order. And this is where people get sold the wrong story. They're told the first $100 must go straight into investments, right away, no exceptions. And if you do that while you are still getting hit with expensive interest, or constant fees, or late charges, you are trying to sprint while someone keeps tugging you backward. But there's a catch. Investing is step 2 if you're still paying heavy interest somewhere else. If you are carrying a balance that is charging you a brutal rate, every month you keep that balance is eating your progress. And I am not going to sit here and pretend that small market gains will reliably outrun a punishing interest rate. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. And the timing can be cruel. So for a lot of people, the first job of that $100 is not the market. It's lowering the drag. Here's a simple way to think about it. Lane 1 keeps your month from snapping. Lane 2 makes the future bigger. But if you have a balance that keeps growing because interest piles on, you have a leak that charges rent. So your first $100 often gets split. Calm cash first, even if it is a smaller amount at first. Then the rest goes to the most expensive interest you are paying, not the one that feels the most annoying, the one that costs the most per month. Because the goal is to stop the monthly bleed so the $100 stops resetting. And this is the part nobody tells you. Once the bleed slows down, investing gets easier. Not because you became a better person, but because the math is not fighting you anymore. Now, if you do not have that kind of expensive interest, great. Lane 2 gets to start sooner. And you do not have to be fancy. If you have a workplace retirement plan, that is often the easiest lane 2, because it is automatic and comes out before the money can get recruited into spending. A Bureau of Labor Statistics table for March 2025 shows that about 72% of private industry workers had access to retirement benefits, and about 53% participated. Translation: a lot of people do not have easy access, and a lot of people who do have access are still not in. So if you have access, lane 2 can be as simple as turning it on. If you do not have access, lane 2 can be a basic account you set and forget. The point is not the perfect pick. The point is separation. Unassigned cash gets pulled into default spending. Assigned cash keeps its identity. Now let's climb from $100 to actual freedom without turning this into fantasy. Freedom is not a magic number. It is options. It starts small. Month 1, the win is that a random charge does not ruin your week. Month 2, you notice you are not paying as many oops fees, and you are not scrambling at the end of the month. Month 3, you start to see the pile losing its power because your money is no longer one big target. Then lane 2 starts to grow, slowly, quietly. And here is what most people miss. The real feeling is not excitement, it's calm. Because when the lanes are working, you stop feeling like every dollar is already spoken for by something you forgot. It gets even better when you start putting annual stuff in its own place. Car registration, a membership that really is worth it. Insurance premiums that hit every 6 months. Anything that likes to show up as a surprise. You can keep it inside lane 1 as a labeled note, or a separate pocket if your bank supports it. The point is, you stop pretending those charges are random. They are scheduled. They just were not scheduled by you. Now, we have to deal with the ending trap. Because the one pile default does not die. It waits. You get a raise, you get a bonus, you finally feel like you have a little margin, and the pile starts whispering. Just combine it. It's easier. Just keep it all together. You'll track it. Just upgrade a few things. You deserve it. And suddenly, your calm cash is paying for lifestyle add-ons. Your growth lane is getting paused temporarily, and the pile is back in charge. That is why people slide back after their first good month. Not because they forgot the steps, because the pile feels convenient. But there's a catch. The moment it starts working, the pile tries to merge everything again. And that's how people slide back. The fix is boring. You keep the lanes separate even when you can afford more. In fact, especially when you can afford more, because more money in one pile just creates bigger, faster mistakes. And you keep lane 1 swipe-proof, even when you are feeling confident, especially then. Because confidence is when just this once shows up. So here's the clean recap. 1. Take your first $100 and move it on day 1. Automatic, not when you have extra. 2. Lane 1 is calm cash. No card, no easy swipe access. It exists to handle timing problems and stop resets. 3. Lane 2 is growth. It exists for the long term, and it only works when lane 1 is doing its job. 4. If you are paying expensive interest, reduce that drag before you pretend you are going to invest your way out of it. 5. When the setup starts to feel easy, do not celebrate by merging lanes. Celebrate by making the lanes bigger. Because the whole point is this. Your money is not weak, your discipline is not broken. Your money just needed a job in a place where it cannot get recruited into everything else. If you want to know why saving your first $1,000 feels harder than the next $10,000, watch this video next.